If you love Critter Country, I think I've got great news for you in today's video because I don't believe it's going anywhere. I see people all the time in the comments, they get worried, is Critter Country going away? And I say, no, 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 no. Critter Country is here to stay. Let me share with you why I think that's the case. Friends, by the time this video has posted, Critter Country will be closed. And I don't think this is going to be the first time we see this land close in the next decade, because right where I'm standing is the keys to Disneyland's future expansion. But before we start with what lies beyond these gates and the future of Disneyland and Disneyland Forward, let's break down why I believe Critter Country is closing, other than the obvious, because of Tiana's Bayou adventure. But this is a small part in a very, very big plan that's got me super excited. Brickey here, breaking down the closure of Critter Country and why it's a good thing. So Tiana's Bayou Adventure is just one of several projects that we've seen all along the western end of Disneyland. The treehouse got completely re-edited, redone. It took quite a long time, but also the front end of Pirates was readjusted. We're seeing the Haunted Mansion in Magnolia Garden getting massaged currently. And let's not forget that we saw the French Market converted over to Tiana's Palace. And now we're standing next to Tiana's Bayou Adventure, formerly RIP Splash Mountain. Every single piece of the western end has been edited over the last 2 or 3 years, which to me is a huge indication that there is something big, I mean massive, planned for the eastern end of Disneyland. That would be where Tomorrowland sits. But the reason why we've seen them rip apart the west end, which has been pretty much a flawless strip of theme park, is because everything on the eastern side requires Disneyland Forward to happen. So essentially everything that we've seen happen over on the western end of the park was due to, let's tighten up everything that we can do now because we know that big projects are going to be on the horizon. So I do believe that the two are tied together. It's just kind of hard to see that right now because I can't think of any other logical reason why they would have ripped up the entire west end of the park. When Critter Country closes, that means the last attraction is Pirates of the Caribbean until you get over to Rise of the Resistance. That is a massive stretch of Disneyland to have closed during the spring and summer season. There has to be a bigger play here where they're willing to take the L for summer, spring 2024 because they know that the future needs all of this to be locked down. That's the only way that I can make sense of it. You have to make it make sense. But the good news for people that absolutely love Critter Country, my prediction is this: Critter Country is going nowhere. It is here for the long haul. Yeah, it's going to be abbreviated, it's going to change, like we're going to see the evolution of this getting shut down so they can do the front end of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, as well as adjusting 2 of the existing shops. I'm not saying it's always going to stay the same, but I'm saying Critter Country is good for the long haul. And another big reason why it's all closing is because, think about it, the edge of the old Splash Mountain Tiana's Bayou Adventure is right here. Aside from needing to update the shops, they also need to have this completely open so they can do all the work, bring in all the equipment and supplies they need to build out the front facade where the old barn was. So they don't have a lot of room to get their work done. So it does make an insane amount of sense that this needs to get closed so all of this can transform into what it needs to be so the attraction can open up later on this year. Friends, thank you so much for subscribing to Hey Brickey and helping me make it to 40K. To celebrate 40,000 subscribers, I've got my 40K item, the Walt 1901 hoodie, the perfect thing to keep you cozy on those theme park nights. Available, link below. Thank you very much for supporting Hey Brickey. And my biggest source of proof for Critter Country making it till I think decades and decades from now is that Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is going to be opening later on this year, it was designed for Disneyland. Just like we saw Rise of the Resistance get massaged into the weird, odd footprint here at Disneyland, and then they just threw whatever they wanted to over at Disney's Hollywood Studios because there's no land restrictions out there. We have seen Tiana's Bayou Adventure get mainly dialed into what Disneyland needs, and then the clone thrown out to the Magic Kingdom. And my proof for this is right here. They didn't just tell you the story of Tiana. It's not going to be a book report style ride where it's just the movie retold to you. It's a whole new adventure. And that whole new adventure is to tether it into Disneyland. As you've seen, there's gonna be hardly any secrets when we finally get to ride it, because Disney has been desperately showing all the little details of Tiana's Bayou Adventure because they really want to win people over and get them excited about this, because they know the odds that they're against. Because Splash Mountain was so beloved, they're just trying to warm everybody up to, hey, this thing is coming and we want you to get excited about it. And it seems like it's working. It seems like a lot of people are very excited to see exactly what it is. But what it is an attraction full of what? Lots of little critters. They have created a bunch of original characters that will be inside of that attraction, therefore tethering it into where? Critter Country. Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you cannot tell me otherwise, was designed for Disneyland. And I think a huge reason for them going so hard to try to make sure that it would work with Disneyland is because they know that this area right here, it has to stay Critter Country. Because my theory is this, that at some point, this beautiful grassy mound that's being built right here that is Tiana's, this little Wild West outpost and the edge of the Critter Country, where it's like forest meets edge of town, right? Because technically, like the Haunted Mansion, New Orleans Square, that is the furthest neighborhood, the farthest edge of Disneyland, if we think of Main Street USA as being its hub. I know I'm going deep into the story, but I say that because eventually these gates right here will take you over to wherever Disneyland grows next. Beyond these gates is a path that leads you directly over to the parking lot that lives between the Disneyland Hotel and Pixar Pals and Mickey and Friends. It's right through here. That's how you get there. So if you want to think about a perfect Disney transition, right? Like how we get over to Rise of the Resistance is absolutely beautiful. Chef's kiss. Hollywood Studios? I'm looking at you, kid, not so much. But imagine this path that I'm walking with you right now. You go past the Haunted Mansion. That's the edge of Disneyland. That's the edge of town. You go along the Riverway. You work your way through the woods. You work your way through this last little country town. Last stop that you see before we'll either go through a tunnel or on a bridge that will take us over to whatever Disneyland Forward has in mind for the extension of Disneyland. There will be something similar to Fantasy Springs on the other side of this tunnel. A few more examples for the long-term history of Critter Country come to us from Disneyland Forward, where 3 different buildings have been picked to become historical landmarks. They picked a building from each of the 3 decades of Disneyland. And the building that houses the Hungry Bear restaurant was picked to be the building celebrating the 70s for the Disneyland history. So believe it or not, Hungry Bear will be a historical building inside of Disneyland, therefore meaning it will be very difficult to ever edit or adjust this building as it's becoming a national landmark. And then there's also the Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Based on the movie from 1977, this ride showed up in 2003 and was super popular at first, but fewer people ride it now because it's not that conveniently located to the rest of Fantasyland, making it incredibly hard for families with little legs to make the trek all the way down to Pooh's Corner. However, once this ride is your last stop on your way to the future expansion of whatever Disneyland Forward has across the street, I believe a combination of that and Tiana's Bayou Adventure next door will bring the popularity of Pooh back to where it once was. And then there's Tiana's Bayou Adventure bringing in new critters to Critter Country. It's also paying tribute to the past with an animatronic band making a subtle reference to the old Country Bear Jamboree. I think all of these details show that Critter Country has a bright future ahead, and it will remain a vital part of Disneyland's charm as it grows and honors its past. And the fact that there are nods in Critter Country to its legacy I think is a good way to predict that the land that's been here since 1972 seems to have another 50 plus years in its future. So this adorable little neighborhood known as Critter Country will be the last outpost that we see until we go through or under or over, however we get there, not quite sure. But I can almost guarantee you that that's what's going to happen if they're going to move Disneyland over into that direction. And because Disneyland is Walt's park, Walt Disney Imagineering has always been very sensitive to the theming and the transitions here at Disneyland. They give it the white glove treatment time and time again. So I believe that if you imagine walking through all of this, which is very family friendly, very kid friendly, it would only make sense that this is sort of setting you up for going into something that is like an extension of the Fantasyland type theme. I do believe that there will be something Frozen on the other side of this because 1, it fits, 2, it's already been designed, 3, it's extremely popular, and 4, it would pair so well with the Fantasy Tower over at the Disneyland Hotel. And when I try to imagine what's going to be placed in the parking lots on the other side of the theme parks, on the western side, it has to be something that matches the hotels. Because what's the best way to really expedite the expense and the experience of the Fantasyland Tower or all of the Disneyland Hotel? Not just exclusively the Fantasyland Tower, but I like that the Fantasyland Tower could have a theme park view. That makes sense. But just imagine if staying at that hotel meant that you got early access, private access over to whatever this version of Fantasy Springs America looks like. Oh, friends, excuse me for interrupting this video. I want to tell you, I don't think Critter Country is going away, and I don't think Hey Brickey's going away because you just subscribed. Thank you. So let's do the math together real quick on my theory. The western end of the park has been perfectly massaged, and when all these projects wrapped up, it's probably good to go for a decade plus. The retheming of Tiana's Bayou Adventure perfectly fits the theme of Critter Country. And Critter Country represents a beautiful transition into something that would match the theme of the Disneyland Hotel and also give Disney more of what it's probably looking for, a big, expansive, family-friendly area that continues the legacy of what Walt Disney established with Disneyland and Fantasyland, his favorite land. So when I add all of these little pieces together, what it says to me is Critter Country is going nowhere. And Critter Country has been set up for whatever this future expansion looks like. And so it's kind of hard for me to get bummed out about the changes because I see all of these changes as just being one small step to whatever Disneyland's future looks like. And I think that future is looking pretty bright. So friends, one day soon, you and I will get to walk through the woods of Critter Country, take that bridge, take that path, take that tunnel into more Disneyland. And whenever I talk about this, so many people go, that is going to be so far to walk, because by the time you walk all the way into the park and come over here, it will be a long haul. And I agree. And that makes even more sense to sell those hotel tickets. If you want to see my idea about how Frozen would fit over in that parking lot, make sure you watch this video right here. I think you'll see that it's a pretty good fit to have Frozen World of Arendelle right on the other side of where I'm standing right now. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you.